אם אתם חושבים שעורך דין ביוון זה רק בשביל החתימה, תחשבו שוב. בפרק הזה נדבר על אחד הנושאים החשובים ברכישת דירה ביוון, הצד המשפטי. נארח את עורכת הדין שלנו באתונה, אלני, דורה, שמלווה אותנו כבר שנים, ונשאל אותה את כל הדברים שישראלים צריכים לדעת לפני שקונים דירה ביוון. היי אלני, how are you?
Hello, it's so good to be with you. Thank you very much for the invitation on this podcast. It's great to work with you and also cooperate with you on this podcast. Always a pleasure. I'm doing well, thanks.
Great to have you here with us, Eleni.
Yeah, so really, before we start, thank you for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time to help our listeners to understand how to buy a property in Greece in the right way. אז פתיח ואנחנו מתחילים. Okay.
So, Eleni, do you want to start by telling us a bit about yourself?
With pleasure. Thank you very much. Well, I live in Athens, in Greece. I'm a Greek lawyer, and I've been acting as a lawyer for the past 16 years. Even though I exercised, let's say, the profession as a trainee while I was still studying at the university. So since 2002, let's say, I can still share my age. I'm almost 42 years old. So I do mainly real estate law, M&A, corporate law, and we're in office with 4 seniors attorneys. I'm the managing partner, and together with our trainees, juniors, and network, we are very happy to be active in real estate law mainly. More or less, this is about me. I have had some corporate roles also in the past. I was leading the legal department of a 2.2 billion turnover international business on the retail sector, Carrefour, let's say, corporation for Greece and the Balkans, and other brands like Gap, Sephora, Starbucks. And after, let's say, closing a very big refinancing transaction back in 2017, I decided to quit my corporate role and start my own boutique law firm.
What a big shot you are.
And this is how I met you also in this journey.
Very, very impressive. Well, can you tell us why did you choose to become a lawyer?
Well, I didn't want to become a lawyer. You know, when we start this educational journey, all of us, when you are 18 years old, you need to decide, as per the educational system in Greece, what you want to do with the rest of your life. Who knows? You start, from a point, and then it develops differently. And this is the magic of the trip of each one of us. So basically, I wanted to study law. This was something I knew. And I wanted to study law because I wanted to become a diplomat. I always liked international relationships and working with people from abroad or traveling. So after being admitted to the law school and started studying, I started, acting as an agent because my mother is active in real estate, in the real estate market for more than 30 years. So because I needed, some extra money as a student, I started also representing properties, meeting owners, representing owners. And this is how I got introduced to the real estate market. So somehow
I didn't know
it.
it. I didn't know that you were
You
an
didn't
agent.
ask. You didn't ask. Yes. So this is how real estate got into my blood. And then when I started working as a trainee in the beginning with Carrefour Group, I started, working with smaller cases of lease agreements. But, in such corporations, it means some 500K per year annual rent. So this is a small figure for a large corporation. And it ended up with purchase of separate plots of land, construction of commercial centers in Greece, in the Balkans. Then I moved into hospitality, also sector and started also being active in hotels construction or lease agreements, from Asia to London or US or Latin America or Morocco, Greece, and together, let's say, with the hospitality and real estate projects abroad, I got introduced to the Israeli real estate market and started working with Israelis. And this was basically the cherry, as we say, we have an expression in Greek, it was the cherry on my cream.
Also,
Yes, because this basically, I woke up with this. It was a flash that woke me up, because Israelis, whatever they do it a lot and very fast. And this is something I do like, basically. So if you want to work with Israelis in the real estate market, you must be intensive, you must be fast, you need to run the extra mile. But if this doesn't run in your blood, you will end up burned out. And this is something basically that I assume runs in my blood, because I like working with you. You're very fast, you're very consistent, you're very resilient, you're very disciplined, and
we have this
both of you are also good
training.
people, so I think we make a good match.
Yeah, we think so too. So, Eleni, that's a sensitive one. One of the biggest concerns people have when buying property in another country is, how can you be sure you are not getting scammed? How can I know they don't fool me? So how do you really know? How can you make sure the deal is completely safe?
So try to smell a bit the market, and of course ensure that the reports they're getting, they're always signed. For example, a lawyer can be engaged to act as a legal counsel, conducting a legal due diligence in the property, which is a must. Okay, always conduct a legal due diligence. So this report needs to be signed, because each lawyer bears certain responsibilities vis-a-vis the bar association to which he or she are registered. An engineer, the same, they bear responsibility. So they need to ensure that the engineer that they are actually engaging signs the report issued. These are, the primary and basic steps.
Yeah.
So get to know your people you're partnering with, and obtain some sample of the work and references.
I got it.
Signed reports.
Okay, I got it. I just want to clarify this specific one. In this specific question, when I'm saying scam, how can people know that they are paying money and the apartment will be registered under their name eventually?
Well, basically, the payments are conducted through a bank account that they need to open. So this is something that is strongly recommended, okay? One. And second, the payments should be made regarding the registration to the notary public account directly, because also the Notaries Association is very strict. So instead of, let's say, paying the registration fee to any third person or to any lawyer or to any mediator's account, no, it should be directly to the notary's account through a bank account that they open on their name, because the notaries are entitled to register the property through the system on its buyer's name. It takes some days and perhaps in some cases some months to receive the equivalent to taboo certificate.
Yeah.
But usually this is done sufficiently and effectively by all notaries currently in Greece.
Mhm.
And I need to say that the situation has improved significantly in comparison to 5-7 years in the past.
Due to the
Basically,
digitalization?
yes, exactly. Digitalization has finally started to become a part of our business life. Still, a lot of, let's say, there's lots of improvement, is still required. There's still lots of room for improvement, but we're getting there.
I wanted to ask, how do you see the role of a lawyer in the real estate business? Because we know you for years, and we know that you do much more than just legal advice. Is that common in Greece, or it's just your personal approach?
Why being a lawyer? As a professional and personally, I always had the business approach to transactions and how I envisage the deals, the transactions, and what's required to do the extra mile. And this is how, let's say, my mentor also raised me professionally, who was not a lawyer. Okay, so I don't want to compare myself to other lawyers, because indeed in the market there are many other very good lawyers, but in my definition, the definition from my perspective to a good lawyer does not comprise only of the legal background, okay? Because in order to close a deal, in order to represent your client before the courts, in order to just, let's say, sign a simple POA, first of all, you need to sell. You need to sell yourself. You need to sell that you are a trustworthy professional and a person, and build a relationship. And then after gaining the trust, you need to do exactly the same with the other side, with the opposing party in a litigation, with the other contracting party in case of a transaction. So it always takes two to tango. And you always, in my definition of a good lawyer, you need to have a business approach. So what's the best interest of your clients? What's the target of your client? We don't decide as lawyers, and we don't need to prove to our clients or to the other contracting party that we need to compete and show, who has the best legal knowledge, the most qualifications. No. This is not the way. This usually is what ruins deals. We need to be as humble as possible, promote our clients' interests, of course, inform about the risks, but our clients need to decide always what needs to be done. And from that perspective, of course, this can be combined with what we do. We work with accounting firms, we work with tax experts, we work and cooperate with notaries, not one, but with many, notarial offices, depending on the expertise and on the availability. We work with engineers, we provide financial support and financial resources. We have in our network people that can opine also for subsidies and other EU tools. So we like to, let's say, position ourselves as a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
But
okay. I can tell from my side that Eleni and her team, shout out to Panagiota, are not only very professional, but they are always helping us to push forward our deals.
I appreciate it.
Eleni,
It takes two to tango.
Eleni, what does legal due diligence actually include when buying a property in Greece?
Good question. So basically, a legal due diligence entails a thorough check conducted electronically, but also with files that a lawyer needs to check at the local land registry of at least 20 years in the past, in order to ensure that there are not any legal encumbrances, liens, mortgages, mortgage prenotation, or any lawsuits registered over the property. In some cases where basically the seller is a company, it also includes tax compliance of the seller in order to avoid any special real estate tax that could apply when the target of the transaction is not a property but is a legal entity owning a property. It entails a legal due diligence over the seller, okay, and the fact that they don't have any debts, to the tax authorities, to the social insurance authorities, that they don't owe any money for utility bills, And in case that the seller, of course, as I started saying in the beginning, is a company, you need to check the legalization of the company. Is it in a good standing? Is it insolvent? Is it legally represented? The person that's going to sign, the individual that's going to sign acting as administrator of the company, is it actually the administrator? So there are lots of details that should be looked into. And every time we try our best to act accordingly.
All right. So you mentioned the notaries before. So can you explain us a bit about the role of the notaries in the Greek real estate market? What is the difference between a notary and a lawyer and their jobs?
Well, basically, in Greece compared to Israel, the situation is completely different. So I understand that in Israel, a lawyer can act as a notary as well.
Correct.
So it can have a dual role, dual qualification. While in Greece, this cannot happen. So a lawyer, after the lapse of certain years, can study and obtain an additional certification upon basically going through a very, very difficult examination in order to become a notary, which is a closed profession. So certain positions open annually, and only after these exams, the lawyers that do wish to proceed that direction can become notaries.
Will you do it one day?
I like too much the action. So I don't think I will ever become a notary. As I say now, I don't know, in 10 years, perhaps. But currently, I like too much the action entailed regarding, a deal. So I'm going to miss it.
You're right. It's boring to be a notary, I think.
Okay. Eleni, when an Israeli investor comes to Greece to buy their first property, how should they choose a lawyer? What questions should they ask, or what should they look for when choosing one?
Thank you for your question. Depending on the target, let's say, investment, is it going to be an apartment? Is it going to be a building? It's going to be a hotel? It's going to be a commercial space? So basically, my suggestion would be, first of all, to try to understand what's the experience of such a lawyer in real estate, depending on their target, and starting to address some questions on how they envisage the transaction. If they have try to identify if they have also a business approach in order, to be able to zoom out from the pure legal role, and also understand if they have a business approach in the details in order to help them close the deal and not complicate their lives even more, and understand also how they do the legal due diligence and what they check and ensure that they do go, let's say, and conduct a thorough legal due diligence of 20 years in the past, which details they are into. And this is it in the beginning. And, you never marry professionally somebody. So in my view, if it's going to be the first deal of an investor, it's important, let's say, to gain experience in the market, but they could also split the process and say, listen, okay, I agree, you will conduct a legal due diligence. Please conduct a legal due diligence. What's your fee for that? And if such an investor is satisfied with the level of experience and services that they receive, why not to continue? But perhaps splitting the process in stages could work better for both sides. First, let's say, ask if it's your first deal, legal due diligence. Where do we stand? Okay, thank you for your services. What's your fee? Okay, I will pay you for this. I will study the report and get back to you. Then, down payment agreement. Okay, what's required? Of course, always involve the agent. Up to a point, because the agent's job does not finish, when they show a property. That's when it starts. in my view. So always involve the agent to collect the papers, to be more active in the whole negotiation and assist each lawyer, assist the parties to close the deal. Then another stage would be notarial pre-agreement if required, depending on the complications of each transaction, and then the final deal and the closing.
Okay.
Okay, so what are some of the most common mistakes you see foreign or especially Israelis buyers makes?
They avoid the technical due diligence.
Really?
Yes, this is from my point of view, this is the main, let's say, problem that I see in the deals. And it's not one or two, these are many deals.
Really?
Yes, that could cost, let's say, a few thousand, like, you can see that in an apartment of 30,000-40,000, but you can see it also to a plot of 1 million euro. Okay, and let's say investors have not conducted technical due diligence. It's a must. They must not rely on the technical information or topographic plans or layouts or technical electronic digital IDs provided by the seller. A seller always wants to sell. So it's the buyer's obligation to check basically the information provided by the seller.
Yeah, I'll say a few words in Hebrew regarding the technical due diligence. אז זה משהו שהזכרנו בפרקים הקודמים אפילו כמה פעמים. על דירה פשוטה, אנחנו שולחים מהנדס שלנו שיעשה technical due diligence, יבדוק את המסמכים שהמהנדס של המוכר סיפק לנו, וגם יבדוק פיזית את הנכס. זה משהו שבדירה רגילה עולה כמה מאות יורו, לא יותר מזה, ואין שום סיבה בעולם לוותר על זה. בבניינים, במגרשים, זה יכול לעלות קצת יותר, לא יודע, בין 1,000 ל-2,000 יורו נגיד, עדיין אין שום סיבה בעולם לוותר על זה, זה חלק חשוב מאוד בתהליך, שמומלץ מאוד להתעקש עליו. When do you raise a red flag and advise a client not to go ahead with the deal?
When I hear that cash money are involved, because it happens, there are many sellers that ask for cash money, and perhaps there are also cases that this is a request coming from an agent. Real estate transactions with cash money are illegal since the past 2 years because there's been a complete mess and dysregulation of the market, especially due to the golden visa that disrupted significantly the market. And thankfully, due to the increase of the golden visa minimum required amount, we are now getting to normality slowly. This is very good for the market, the increase of the golden visa limit. So my advice would be to stay away from transactions requiring cash money, because this means that this is an increase usually of the price, that somebody is adding money on the deal. It's illegal, one. Second, depending on their model, they could choose basically if they want to buy a property that is leased or not leased. If the property is leased, it's very difficult to terminate a lease agreement with a tenant unless, let's say, of course, the lease terms are very good and they're satisfied and they're intending to purchase the property in order to use it for a long-term investment. Okay? So this is another reason that I would advise clients to refrain from closing a deal. If, for example, they want to renovate the property and this is leased for another 2-3 years, the model cannot work unless, of course, they can wait to conduct the renovation after 2-3 years. I think these are the red flags from my side. Anything else we can deal with apart from these two issues?
Okay, perfect. Can you share a success story, a deal you are proud of or that went especially well? Do you have something in mind?
Thank you for your question. There are also success stories Funny stories and negative stories. Everything is included in the portfolio. A success story could be, let's say, an apartment that you succeed as a lawyer to close in a very short period of time, and I say less than a month. In order for this to happen, because I always try to be realistic, it means that the seller has already prepared all his documents, everything is on the table, so the buyer only checks and reviews the already prepared document. So I consider it a success if we identify a mature, sufficiently seller with all the documents already prepared, because more or less in the market, it takes in between 3 to 6 months to close even an apartment because of the bureaucracy involved. And if you want to do a proper job, checking the papers with a technical due diligence, as we said, conducting a proper legal due diligence, checking all the accounting documents, it's a time-consuming process, but you're safe in the end of the process. So it's not to do it fast, it's also to do it properly. Okay, so apart from, closing a small apartment fast, I have participated in or led transactions of portfolio sale and purchase or sale and leaseback exceeding 200 million euro per transaction in Greece, abroad, commercial centers, hotels. But, it still has its particularities, and it's not a matter, of being, of admiring the money behind it. It's from each transaction you still learn. Even if it's, a 50,000 euro apartment or if it's a portfolio of 200 million. I tend to deal with them in exactly the same way. I can say also a negative story. It's a nightmare, but I think we're solving it.
Yeah, we meant to ask a horror story we want.
Horror story. It took us 3 years to finish a deal in Mykonos with geometrical, moving of limits. Thank God we're finishing it this week, but it took us 3 years, 3 notaries, 4 engineers in order to finish it.
So Sporadon is not the worst.
No, of course not. There are other deals more difficult than that.
Yeah, okay. Sporadon, I will tell the listeners maybe what is Sporadon.
In Sporadon we had the particularity that basically the apartment from its construction has occupied common spaces. In order to legalize from a technical perspective that case, which is very common in the building in Athens, in most of the cases you need to obtain the consent of the co-owners of the entire building. If the deal is good, like in Sporadon case, it's worth waiting. If the deal is not that good, run. Sporadon, you closed a very good deal, so you can wait a bit longer.
ספורדון זה דירה שאנחנו מתעסקים איתה, בגלל זה העלינו את הנושא, את הדירה הזאת.
At least your horror story is not one of ours.
Yes.
So, what is the single most important tip you would give to someone buying their first apartment in Greece?
The single.
Yes.
Yeah, single tip.
Okay. Be patient and don't compare the process with the process in Cyprus or in Israel. It's a bureaucratic process. Give it some time. In order to learn how to do it better in your next transaction.
Israelis have no patience.
Yes, this is why it's the first and the last thing I always say. Be patient.
We are trying to do our best.
So, Eleni, what is it like? You already mentioned it, but what is it like working with Israeli clients? How are they different from Greek or other foreign investors?
You're very fast. And very intensive and very resilient, very disciplined.
What about the bad part?
Also very persuasive, and if you want a deal, you want to make a deal, you will find a way to make it happen.
Do you have any funny or memorable story from one of your deals? Something that made you laugh?
I remember a story with a specific tenant in a building that the client has purchased who has been walking naked in the corridors and common spaces. And the other tenants were sending to our office all the videos, which was very...
That's a
let's
good one.
say I don't want to comment, because it had its particularities in order to address it as a matter, but it's not something that you deal every day, let's say. Okay, so
What did you do?
I would have to deal it in a sensitive way, from both a legal perspective, GDPR, but also safety for the owner, safety for the other tenants in the building. It was a delicate matter.
That's a good one.
Okay. And finally, if you were buying a property for yourself in Athens tomorrow, which neighborhood would you choose and why?
In the center of Athens, or in the suburbs of Athens also included?
Anywhere you like.
If I was buying a property for me to live in or for an investment?
Investment.
For an investment. 100% the center. If we're talking about investment now, the areas that are going up a lot are Kypseli, Patission, Acharnon, that part of the city. And why I'm saying that part of the city, because as an investment, you can buy it cheaper than in other areas like Kolonaki or Pagrati, and flip it with a higher return.
Yeah.
For investment in the center, I would choose that area. Personally, I live in the south suburbs of the city, so because I like the sea a lot, and that part also goes up significantly, and it's more expensive, but it continues raising as a price. So depending also, on somebody's cash flow. So if I wanted to know a good return on my investment, I would buy in those areas, Kypseli, Patission, Patissia, Acharnon, that side. If I wanted to pay a higher amount and still have return on my investment, I would buy Falliro, Glyfada, Voula, maybe something, older, renovate it and flip it. But this would require a higher amount of cash flow.
Great. All right. So before we finish, I want to highly recommend on Eleni. I will tell it in Hebrew later on. Not only that Eleni and her team are super professional, they are also, and as I mentioned, they always help us to push our deals forward. They are also super loyal. We know 400% that they will always fight for us and guard us and save our interests. So highly, highly, highly recommended.
And great personality as well.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure to work with, and we really appreciate everything that you are doing for us, Eleni. So
it is mutual. We also thank you a lot for your cooperation, your trust, and our relationship over the years. And it's always a pleasure.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eleni.
We'll see you in Athens.
We'll be in touch.
See you soon.
Bye
Bye
bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
אז אחרי שסיימנו עם אלני, אני רוצה להגיד גם כמה מילים בעברית. אנחנו באמת ממש ממליצים בחום על אלני, מי שמחפש עורך דין באתונה, ביוון. אלני והצוות של הפנגיות, שאר הצוות, הם א', ממש מקצועיות, אנחנו סומכים עליהם בעיניים עצומות. ב', תמיד עוזרות לנו, כמו שהזכרתי לפני זה, תמיד עוזרות לנו לדחוף את הדילים שלנו קדימה, לגרום לדברים לקרות. הם לא רק עורכות דין בשבילנו, הם לא עושות רק את הצד המשפטי, אלא הן עוזרות לנו לקדם את התהליכים, מייצגות אותנו באמת מול כל הגורמים בעסקה, מול סוכנים, מול נוטריונים, מול מוכרים, מול כל מי שצריך, מהנדסים. ודבר אחרון, הם סופר סופר נאמנות, אנחנו תמיד יודעים ובטוחים, אנחנו בעיניים עצומות יודעים לסמוך עליהן, שהן תמיד ילחמו בשבילנו, יעשו הכל כדי לשמור על האינטרסים שלנו, וממש ממליצים עליהן בחום. אנחנו לא, אין לנו שום אינטרס, ואנחנו לא נקבל מזה כלום.
אני רוצה שנייה להוסיף למה שאמיר אמר, שימו רגע את העניין של אלני בצד, שהיא העורכת דין שלנו, זאת התחושה וזה מה שאתם צריכים לקבל מעורך הדין שלכם, זה ההרגשה שלכם, ספציפית אנחנו מרגישים מאוד טוב עם אלני, אבל ההרגשה עם עורכת דין או עורך הדין זה מאוד מאוד חשוב, וזה מה שאנחנו בעיקר רוצים להעביר פה.
מסכים, הזכרנו גם בפרקים הקודמים שעורך דין ביוון זה לא רק הצד המשפטי, הוא גם איש אמון שלנו, אנחנו צריכים לסמוך עליו ב100% ולדעת שהוא מייצג את האינטרסים שלנו כמו שצריך ושומר עליהם, וכמו שגל אמר זאת ההרגשה שגם אתם צריכים לחפש. עוד כמה מילים על הדברים שאלני אמרה לנו?
לא, אני רוצה להגיד שאם יש משהו, אני אגיד משהו קטן, אם יש משהו שאלני אמרה ולא היה לכם מובן ואתם רוצים שנבהיר לכם או משהו בסגנון, אז תפנו אלינו. זה היה הפרק השמיני של גשר לאתונה, הפן המשפטי של רכישת דירה ביוון. אם חשבתם שעסקת נדל"ן זה רק מחיר ותשואה, עכשיו אתם כבר יודעים שזה גם חוזה, נוטריון ועורכת דין טובה. אם בא לכם לשאול, להתייעץ או פשוט לשתף חוויה, אנחנו זמינים במייל וגם באינסטגרם של ברידג' ונצ'רס, שמופיעים בתיאור הפרק. ואם הגעתם עד כאן ואתם לא עוקבים אחרינו באפליקציות הפודקאסטים, או שעוד לא דירגתם אותנו, הגיע הזמן. נשמח גם שתשתפו עם חברים, ומוזמנים לעקוב גם אחרי האינסטגרם של ברידג' ונצ'רס, שבו נשתף קטעים מהפרויקטים, שאנחנו עובדים עליהם מאתונה. אז זהו, נתראה בפרק הבא, יאללה ביי.